In the protagonist's past life, he worked in a rescue team and died in an accident. After that, he woke up in this world full of mutated beasts and those called the Awakened Ones. In this place, he also awakened a power. By expending physical and mental energy, he could create gems. If the target accepts the gem, he can control their life, soul, and even their consciousness. In theory, this seems like an extremely overpowered ability. But of course, there's an obvious problem. With the gem in hand, someone asks what Zhang Ping is doing. He tells Su Jingyao that it's nothing special and asks if she wanted candy. However, she tells him to forget it since she would never want to be controlled by him. The problem with the ability is that the person has to know what happens when they consume the gem and accept the contract voluntarily. Otherwise, it's useless. The original owner of this body nearly exploded with rage because the ability was useless. However, having lived for a long time, he had a more resilient mentality to withstand such a useless power. Still, Su Jingyao tells him not to give up and that soon he'll find some creature that will accept being dominated by him. The boy says it's easy to say, but besides himself, no one else would accept it. That's when he gets an idea and wonders why he never thought of it before. He starts eating the gem and Su Jingyao asks what he is doing. Instantly, the green power begins to envelop his body and a strange energy rises to the sky. Su Jingyao approaches and asks if he's okay, to which he replies that he is. She tells him to be more careful because it was scary. They then chat for a while. She says it's late and she's going back to the dorm. The boy asks if she really is about to graduate. She explains that she has already learned everything from the books and now only combat will make her stronger. The boy knows that joining the patrol team and protecting the land had always been her childhood dream. She tells him not to be too discouraged. Once he gets stronger, perhaps they can work together. The boy is so useless that he was given the role of farmer at the school. He tells her to forget it because he'll probably live a very simple life. Even so, the boy feels a bit sad. Although she had been a friend of the body's previous owner, he still felt strange leaving her. He thinks he really wanted to give her a hug. Suddenly, out of nowhere, he starts grabbing her. It feels like he's watching himself from another consciousness, wondering why his body is moving on its own. She is flustered and says she's leaving, and with that, she runs off. He tells her to be careful on the way. She turns around slightly embarrassed and tells him to also pay more attention to things. The boy waves goodbye with a smile. However, he noticed that his body moved on its own when he wanted to give her a hug. It was as if, subconsciously, he had commanded himself. Maybe it was a coincidence. Obviously, he wanted to confirm it. He commanded himself to fly like Superman and fell face first to the ground like an idiot. He prepared a mountain fist punch, but it did absolutely nothing except make him fall again like a fool. He ended up crying on the floor, but he realized that now with his mind he could perform any action. Of course, it couldn't exceed the normal capabilities of what a human could do. However, as long as he knew exactly the movement that needed to be made, he didn't need to practice. In theory, if the body is capable of executing the movement, he can master any martial art without much effort. The biggest obstacle in front of him now was his own physical aptitude. However, there was still something he wanted to check. The next day, little by little, he opens his eyes and notices he's in the cafeteria exhausted. His legs hurt like hell because he had ordered his body to wake up in the middle of the night and go for a run. The hypothesis that he could control his body even without consciousness was confirmed, and apparently no one suspected anything. People start commenting that someone named Lu Xiu was arriving. She greets everyone with a radiant presence, and the boy knows that she is the beauty of the school. Suddenly, he hears some strange cracking sounds and wonders what the hell it is. Next to him, there was some kind of creature with a giant fox-like face eating someone. The girl seemed to be getting consumed, and no one said anything. It was as if no one besides him was noticing it. That clearly wasn't Lu Xiu. All twisted up, she approached Zhang Ping and said he didn't seem to be doing well. However, at the same time, everything seemed normal in that place, but she was clearly a creature wanting to know if he was sick. Zhang Ping kept repeating to himself to stay calm, and with a trembling voice, he said he was fine. It was just that he had some nightmares and didn't sleep well. He stood up, saying it was time for his class, so he was leaving. However, Lu Xiu wondered aloud if she didn't smell fear. Walking down the hallway, he wondered why there were mutated beasts in the school and why no one noticed them. He went to the classroom thinking he had to tell the teacher about it immediately. But when he got there, he got another scare. What seemed to be the teacher was consuming a girl on the floor. Obviously, he ran out right away. He went to the top floor and sat on a bench, desperate. Something was wrong and he didn't know what was happening. The only thing that had changed recently was that he consumed the stone and started seeing these beasts. He wanted to eat another one, thinking that all this was some kind of illusion. Once again, the green aura started to come out of his body, and a system message said it was doing an evaluation. With that, the scenes he had seen before began to replay. The illusion disappeared, and he was left somewhat breathless. It seemed the system had unlocked an analysis ability. At the moment, he was only a 3-star human with almost no talent. What he also noticed now was that the contract gems had levels. One of the talents was absolute command, meaning the person had to do whatever he ordered. However, at the same time, since he was a contractor, he also had absolute obedience and couldn't disobey. Another talent of his was evaluation, which allowed him to better understand targets depending on the power difference. He figured this had to do with him eating the gem. He began to analyze the fact that he became both the contractor and the contracted. Since he could control his own body through the ability's consciousness, he was no longer affected by powers that created illusions for his body. These foxes were all high level, and he stood no chance against any of them due to the cognitive distortion they could create. They could eat a person without anyone else noticing. He remembered that Su Jinyo, his childhood friend, had mental abilities, so maybe it would be better to talk to her. After school, he decided to meet her. What scared him was what he saw outside the school. A romantic couple passed by him, but the girl had already been dominated by a fox. He then went to the patrol team headquarters. He approached the receptionist, who, looking beautiful, asked him what he wanted. The boy said he was there to find a girl named Su Jingyo, who must have joined today. But lo and behold, the woman also turned into a fox and told him to wait a moment. Sitting on the bench, he wondered how those damn creatures had already dominated even the patrol team. Apparently, not even high-level awakened ones could see this illusion. And if anyone asked what he was doing there, it was Su Jingyo. Zhang Ping said he was worried that she wouldn't adapt, so he came to check on her. She said he didn't need to worry and introduced the allies from her team, saying that everyone that took good care of her. The boy admitted that it truly was impressive. She then excitedly said that from now on, she would work hard and get stronger to destroy all the beasts and avenge her relatives. She suggested he should join the patrol team too, as they were short on members. But the boy, embarrassed, said his ability was kind of weak, so he wouldn't be able to help much. Seeing how well she was adapting, and given that he was just a farmer, he said he was leaving. However, he already suspected the truth. He only said goodbye to Su Jingyo and her entire team, who were all foxes too. Trying not to show fear, he left, wondering how the strongest group in that city had been wiped out. Su Jingyo had only just arrived, and she was already in this situation. These creatures were called foxes of natural order. Their ability made anything out of the ordinary seem completely routine, and in those moments they hadn't just infiltrated the school but the entire city. The entire city of Pearl had turned into cattle for these monsters. Using the analysis technique, he managed to uncover some details about these creatures. First, most of them ranged from intermediate to high levels. However, back at the patrol team, there were several creatures whose levels he couldn't even assess. Second, the creature that killed Lu Xiu was extremely powerful, and the moment he tried to analyze it, he knew he would be discovered. That creature was either at an advanced level or even a king-level beast. With so much power, it was no wonder they had wiped out the city without anyone noticing, especially considering that, compared to other beasts, they were extremely intelligent and all their abilities were for disguise. Fourth, it seemed the foxes always prioritized the most influential people in society, while the others were mere cattle for them to feed on. In this current situation, it would be a death sentence to face so many of them head-on. However, he couldn't just stand by and watch so many innocent citizens die. He needed a way to get stronger. A week later, he woke up at 3:54 a.m. Since he received the ability, it seemed his body was resting much better. In addition, he advanced to level 2 after training a lot. All the remaining physical and mental energy he had was being turned into gems to consume, in hopes that sooner or later he'd get a better one or some evolved talent. After all, ever since he leveled up, the gems had turned colorless, and he seemed to get nothing from consuming them. However, today he finally got another one with color. He consumed it, saying that it looked more like poison, but he hoped it would have some effect this time. After a while, power began accumulating in him, and in his profile he received a new ability, Night Walker. It granted him night vision, reduced his presence at night, and if he was in the shadows, he became completely invisible. In addition, the contract gem also leveled up to 2, and he wondered if it had something to do with his base level. If he could merely gain a new talent with every level, he would eventually become invincible. But now that he had the new talent, there was no reason to delay. Time to start practicing. Activating the Night Walker ability, he said he wanted to test it. He ran around the school and noticed that his vision at night was now far better than during the day. He could spot any object, including a strange ring lying on the ground. He crouched, finding it a bit odd that it was there. He tried using his analysis abilities several times until he finally succeeded. It was the Ring of Assassination, which, when worn, made all forms of life unconsciously ignore the user completely. The analysis then showed what had happened. The natural order fox controlling Lu Xiu's body had faced a man, probably the true owner of the ring. He had attacked, but she seemed to be expecting him, and with a single slash, the poor guy was cut in half. He knew that Lu Xiu had always been an honest girl, so she wasn't the target of this attack. This meant that besides him, there were other people in the city of Pearl going against these foxes. Suddenly, a fox jumped over the wall and asked who was there. The fox leaped into the bushes, saying she was sure the ring had been there. She had noticed someone's presence, but strangely couldn't sense anything now. If he managed to escape her radar, he was probably an intermediate level awakened 1 or higher. The boy realized that the fallen ring was actually a trap, and the fox retreated, saying she had to inform the royalty. But that was great for him, as, combined with the Night Walker ability, he was now basically invisible. The sun finally rose, and it was 5:36 a.m. Since he needed to get stronger as fast as possible, items were indeed the best solution. However, suddenly he heard some footsteps approaching. A strange voice called his name. He wondered who it was and who was speaking to him, but the voice only told him to hide. The girl then grabbed his face and warned him that they were coming, or rather, they were already there in his room. It had been 4 minutes since he woke up, and there were 3 foxes staring at his sleeping body. The one controlling Lu Xiu asked if it was him and prepared a red attack in her hand, telling him to die. The claw came straight for his face as he drooled. The fox paused the attack, thinking that if it had been him, he would have fought for his life. Besides, she couldn't sense the presence of that ring. Another fox, however, said he was very suspicious since he went out for walks every day. But today, he didn't. However, Lu Xiu, who was also royalty, said it wasn't him. That one was just a worthless meal, and they should learn that food in this city wasn't to be wasted. Some time passed, and the boy woke up startled. He spat out the ring, saying that was a close call. He was stupid to forget about today's walk, and he was lucky he forced his body to swallow that ring, avoiding exposure. What he found strange was hearing Su Jingyo's voice telling him to hide. He wasn't sure if he was getting sentimental or what was happening, but he knew he had to get stronger and get revenge. For now, to avoid any suspicion, he needed to continue living normally. Later, he went to the cafeteria, and 2 girls were commenting that they had found a body split in half this morning. It seemed it was a guy named Black Star, an extremely talented assassin from the city of Pearl. The boy wondered if it was the person from his vision. If even someone so famous in the city was killed like that, clearly Lu Xiu wouldn't be easy to deal with. The strange thing was that they left the body for the public to see. Maybe it was a way to send a warning to those opposing the foxes of natural order. Their surveillance was going to increase, and he urgently needed to find new equipment. After class, he decided to check out some blacksmiths. However, in every shop he went to, it always seemed to be run by a fox. Suddenly, he performed another analysis. The system congratulated him for having conducted 100 analyses and informed him that he had reached the intermediate ranking of the ability. He could now see growth potential and even some talents. The fox had called him into the shop, but he simply thanked her, saying he wasn't interested. His priority was to find a store that hadn't been taken over yet. He approached a blacksmith called Soul Iron, where someone inside said the sword was of high quality. A blonde guy was trying to sell it to the old man, saying he didn't want to brag too much, but that blade was extremely good and he was offering it for a low price. However, the old man told him to take his eyes off his daughter and get those trashy things out of there. Angry, the guy got in the old man's face and asked if he hadn't heard what he said. Suddenly, Zhang Ping grabbed the sword that the guy had left on the table. The man asked what he was doing while the boy used his analysis ability. The blonde guy came over, telling him to give it back or he'd get beaten up. But the system warned that while the sword was attention-grabbing, it was useless since it had been repaired terribly. Right then, Zhang Ping said that the sword would break, and indeed, it snapped at that moment. The blonde guy started crackling with electricity, saying that Zhang Ping had ruined his plans and asked if he knew who he was. He claimed to be a direct disciple of the martial arts master from Xingyi School. He lunged at Zhang Ping, unleashing a flurry of light attacks. But Zhang Ping had sent out a shadow clone. Then Zhang Ping simply slapped the guy in the face. The boy questioned how he could be so weak, and the blonde guy called him dirty. Zhang Ping wasn't afraid at all since he had already seen that this sickly guy was only a level 1 with limited growth potential. The guy shouted that one day he'd get revenge when he became stronger. Zhang Ping just thought that he was delusional. But while Zhang Ping was distracted, the guy tried a sneak attack. He ended up knocked out on the ground, and Zhang Ping commented on how much this guy liked fighting dirty. Suddenly, someone approached, saying they were gone for a second, and the blacksmith's shop got noisy. The one arrived with incredibly strong abs and warned that if the guy didn't leave, he'd be beaten up. The blonde guy ran off terrified, and Zhang Ping realized it would be better to leave too. However, the woman blocked his way, and he asked what the problem was.